Hi guys, Georgette here. Welcome back. Today I'm going to share all of my final makes for 2021. Now, I haven't posted a makes video since June of last year, and those were all of the makes that I made in the first quarter of that year. So this video is going to focus on everything that I made after that. So that would have been everything from April through to December. Okay, so before we get into the makes, just a little bit of housekeeping. Last year I noticed that YouTube was playing ads within my channel, within my videos, and I thought it to be a little bit odd because I have not monetized my channel. So as it turns out, YouTube has changed their policies so that they can put ads wherever, whenever, and in whosever videos that they want to. So if you have been letting the ads play or clicking on the ads as a way to support my channel monetarily, thank you. I very much appreciate it. However, none of those funds are reaching my channel. It's all being filtered back into the YouTube company. I also want to apologize if you've had to suffer through ads playing in the middle of my videos. I know that that annoys me, so I'm sure it annoys some of you as well. So again, my apologies for that, but like I said before, it's just, that's not something that's under my control at this particular point in time. Oh, if you did want to support my channel monetarily, you can always go to my Ko-fi account and just buy me a coffee there. I don't have a Patreon account as of yet, but that might be something I look into later on in the year. Okay, that's it for housekeeping, so let's get into the makes. Alright, so in the second quarter of the year, which is April through June, I made two items. So the first one is Simplicity 8635. And I made this dress for the Sew Maxi for Mother's Day challenge, and that's hosted by Crystal of Crystal Sews and Stuff and T from Crumpets Tea and Sewing. This pattern is from 2018, and I made version A. And I cut a size 12 in the bodice and then graded out to a 14 in the waist and the hip. I also used a cotton print from Hobby Lobby. It's 100% cotton. And I made a couple of changes to the bodice. The first change I made was I changed the darts to princess seams just so I could get a better fit. The second change I made was I changed the back from a lace-up to just a solid back piece. And I didn't cross the straps in the back of the dress. I also raised the waistline on this dress to my natural waist, and I think that might have been an issue. I think it would have looked better had I left it where it was originally. I really like this dress. I think the instructions are straightforward and easy to follow, and it's a really pretty dress. The only issue I have with it is the length of the dress. Now, I think the busyness of the fabric might be overpowering the dress, and I'm wondering if I should make it in a shorter version. I'm wondering if I should cut off some of the length and take it up to version B. You can see version B goes to the knee. So I'm wondering if I would get more wear out of it if it was a little bit shorter. I don't know. What do you guys think? You think I should shorten it or just leave it as is? Alright, so next up is Butterick 5881, and this is an almost vintage dress and duster pattern from 1998. I made version C, which is the shorter version, in a size 14, and I used home deck fabric that I got from Fashion Fabrics Club like a while ago. The only pattern adjustments I made to this pattern was I had to draft a back neck facing piece because that piece was not included within the pattern. And I did size down just a little bit in the bust area. Other than that, I didn't have to make any adjustments to this pattern, and the instructions were very easy to follow, and the dress did come together quite quickly. So when I first saw this pattern, I thought it would look really good in a lightweight denim or a chambray fabric, which is why I used the heavier home deck fabric to test it out in. However, after I made it, I kind of just fell out of love with it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a really pretty dress. It's just not my style, and I just don't think that I'm going to wear it all that much. I think this dress is going to be donated to my local charity shop, and then the pattern I'll donate to my mom's Etsy shop, and she can just sell it there. All right, so those were the 2 items that I made in the second quarter. But let's move on to the third quarter, which is July through September. In August, I made the Vera top by Forget Me Not Patterns, and I made the version with the longer cuff. I'm looking at my my PDF pattern here. Anyway, I made the version with the longer cuff. I cut a size 34, and I just used some fabric that I had in my stash. So you guys, I love this shirt. I love it so much. I love the style lines. I love the fit. I even love the instructions to inserting the neckband. V-necks can be a little bit tricky to install, but these instructions made it a breeze. And the rest of the instructions were just as easy to follow. So just a couple of notes for this pattern. The seam allowance was 1/4 of an inch, so I did have to adjust my serger for that. Also, the instructions to install the neckband want you to use a straight stitch. However, I just threw caution to the wind and did it with my serger, and it turned out perfectly fine. I also used some stay tape on the back shoulder seams just for a little bit more stability. And the only pattern adjustment that I'm going to make in the next one is I'm going to lengthen the sleeves just a little bit, because as you can see, these sleeves they're just like a couple inches too short, but that's a really easy fix. But I can make that adjustment in the next one, and there definitely will be another one. I love this shirt. It was quick and it was easy and it's very pretty. So this was I forgot to mention, this was actually a free pattern at the time that I downloaded it. I'm not sure if it's still free, but if you have a chance to make this top, I definitely suggest that you do. The next item I made was the Basic Instinct t-shirt by secondpiano.space. I'm on the hunt for a basic t-shirt pattern that I can make some plain white tees out of. And I thought this particular pattern, this Basic Instinct tee, would be a pretty good place to start. I used the same fabric that I used for the Vera top, and I cut a size small, which is a 35 in the bust, a 29 in the waist, and I believe a 38 in the hip. The seam allowances were 3/8 of an inch, so I did have to adjust my serger accordingly. And the instructions were very straightforward. This came together very, very quickly. It's a very simple t-shirt pattern. Now, while this is a basic t-shirt pattern, I don't love the look on me. I just feel like the neckline is a little bit too high and it's a little bit too boxy in the waist. So, I mean, I could play with the dimensions of this pattern to kind of get it to fit how I want it to fit, but there are so many other free t-shirt patterns out there that I think I'm going to try a few more before I go back and try to deconstruct this pattern. But all in all, this isn't a bad pattern. It's free, it's easy, and if you're looking to try t-shirts, I definitely recommend that you try this one. Alright, those were all of my summer makes, and then in the final quarter I made 4 items. However, I'm only going to talk about 3 in this video, and I'll talk about the other one at a later date. The first item I made in Q4 were a pair of leggings. So I used Simplicity 8424. This is a 2017 pattern, and I made View B in a size medium, which is 28 to 30 inches in the waist and 38 to 40 inches in the hip. And I used a striped knit fabric that I got from a Walmart bundle. These leggings actually ended up being just a little bit too big for me. My measurements put me right in the middle of a size small and a medium, and I should have cut a size small for a better fit. And I didn't realize that I hadn't fit them or tried them on until after I attached the waistband. And I wasn't unpicking serger threads for a pair of leggings, especially these, because I intended for them to be a wearable muslin anyway. So I just let it go. They're just a little bit too big. Alright, so as for the pattern adjustments, because I did make some pattern adjustments to this. Here we go. I raised the crotch 1 inch. I raised the center back pant 3/4 of an inch, and I shortened the pants for more of a capri length. The leggings were really simple to make. They came together very quickly, very easy instructions, and I didn't have any problems whipping this up. Now, this was actually part of my Make 9 for 2021. And at the time that I made that list, I only had like a couple of leggings, but now I have closer to 10. So I will not be making these leggings anytime soon. However, I am going to hold on to this pattern. I'll definitely use this at a later time. Just for right now, it's going back into my pattern stash. So next up is McCall's 8058. I made View F, the sleeveless version. I use the same fabric as the leggings, and I cut a size 12 in the bust and graded out to a 14 in the waist and hip. I used stay tape on the neckline, the back shoulder seams, the armholes, and the hem because it was such a stretchy fabric. Now, as you can see, the neckline is horrible. I read the instructions before I attempted it. I even watched a tutorial, and I still could not make it work. Every time I did it, the seam allowances were still poking out. So really, I just fudged it to make it work. Also, the armholes are stretched out. I cut some bias strips out of the same fabric, and I really struggled to put them in. I probably should have just turned it under and stitched it down, turned the seam allowances under and stitched it down, like the pattern instructions said to do, but I didn't. So this dress was a fail for me. However, I absolutely will be making this pattern again. I plan on making the scoop neck versions and possibly even the crew neck and short sleeve version. This dress was a super simple make. I mean, other than the V-neck instructions, everything else came together really quickly. Clear and concise instructions. And I'm actually looking forward to making this dress again, just not the V-neck version. So as for the dress that I have now, I am just going to put it back into my stash. I'm going to cut it up and just use it for something else. All right, so the final garment that I made was a flower girl dress. Now, before I made this dress, the flower girl gave me very, very specific instructions. Okay, this dress had to have a bow, it had to be sparkly, and it had to pass the twirl test. Now, if you are unfamiliar with the twirl test, let me tell you what it is. It's when she puts on the dress and she does her very best spin, her twirl, the hem of the dress has to lift a little bit, almost like becoming parallel with the floor, and it also has to make this swishing sound in order to pass this test. So, with my marching orders in hand, I set out to find a dress to fulfill all of these needs. And I actually ended up landing on the Haven dress by Violet Field Threads. Now you guys, this dress pained me. Like, I have never given up on a dress before, well, before this one. But it just gave me so many problems that I couldn't deal with it. And I was a little bit hesitant to even bring this up, but I kind of feel like I'd be doing you guys a disservice if I didn't at least share with you the issues that I had with the dress, just in case you are getting ready to make it. So I'm just going to tell you guys a few things that you might want to know before attempting this dress. The first thing you need to know is that you need to read the instructions thoroughly before you even print out your pattern pieces. And I don't mean just glance at the instructions or just peruse them. I mean read them thoroughly. Study them, highlight them, make notes within these instructions because it's really going to save you a lot of heartache when you go to make this particular dress. I am recommending that you read the instructions before you print out the pattern pieces because the names of the pattern pieces are very, very similar, and it's very easy to get them confused when you're cutting out or when you go to pin your pieces together to make this dress. Now, there are a few different versions of the Haven dress, but the versions are not labeled version A, version B, version C. They're labeled by the name of the pattern. And again, because the names of the patterns are similar, it can get confusing. However, the pattern pieces to the version that you want to make, they're listed out in the instructions. So read the instructions before you print your pattern, okay? Speaking of the pattern pieces, the second thing that you need to know is there are no side seams on the bodice or bib piece, which only happened to be a problem for me when I went to fit the garment because I didn't have any side seams to take out the excess fabric. However, there are side seams on the waistband. So what I did was I lined up my center front bodice with my center front waistband and copied the side seam from the waistband onto the bodice. And that is how I got a side seam, and that is how I was able to take out the excess fabric in the pattern piece. Also, there are no notches within these pattern pieces. So that wasn't a huge deal until I went to attach the straps. The strap placement information is located within the instructions. So again, read the instructions first. All right? Okay. So there were a couple other little things in this pattern that kind of made me cringe a little bit, but nothing that would stop you from completing this dress. As for the sewing instructions, they were easy enough to follow if you compared the instructions with the pictures. So there were a couple of times that I didn't really understand where they were going with the instructions, and I had to interpret what they meant by studying the pictures. Again, none of that is going to stop you from making this dress, and like I said, the instructions are clear enough to follow, so you should be okay. As for the fit, well, that was the source of my pain. So, like I said before, I had to interpret where the side seams were so that I could get a better fit. However, it was the straps that did it for me. You guys, I did no less than 5 fit tests for this dress. And the first 3 were made out of muslin, and each time the straps would gape. I shortened the straps, I moved where they were placed, I even angled the straps a little bit just to get rid of that 2-inch gape in the back. And finally, by the third version, by the third test fit, it seemed like everything was fine. So I took those adjustments and I went back and I cut out my satin fabric. And before I attached the skirt, I wanted to do one more test fit just in case. And thank goodness I did, because the straps were gaping again. However, instead of gaping 2 inches, it was gaping 1.5 inches. So again, I made the adjustments and did another fit session. And lo and behold, the straps were gaping again. So by this time I'm seeing red. Like, I've never done this many fit adjustments for the same exact problem, ever. So needless to say, I scrapped this pattern, which was such a shame because the dress is beyond adorable. And I was a little bit surprised that I had all these issues because I read the reviews and they were all good. No one mentioned any of this. So I'm just going to chalk it up to that dress was not meant for me to make. Anyway, I ended up going with Butterick 4718. This is a 2006 pattern. I used the bodice of version A, and I teamed that with the Haven skirt, which was just one long rectangle that you had to gather, so that was easy enough to attach to this bodice. Also, for the skirt, I used layers of regular and sparkly tulle to make it fuller, and I used some mirror trim around the neckline. I don't know if you can see that. I used some mirror trim around the neckline and the straps and the sash belt. Now, for the belt, I used a 2-inch satin ribbon that was tied around her waist, and there was a large bow in the back. So I had some sparkle, a large bow, and enough gathered layers in the skirt so that the skirt could really get some lift. Now, I was a little bit nervous that she wasn't going to like it, that it wasn't going to have enough bling, but when she saw it, she absolutely loved this dress. And when she tried it on, the dress even passed the twirl test. And that was it. Those were all of the items that I made last year from April to December. And it was actually a lot more than I thought I had made. So I'm pretty happy with my sewing output from last year. Alright guys, that is it for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more from my channel, hit that subscribe button. And I will see you all next time. Bye!